Well, Game Pass keeps on giving, and so I take a look once again on some of the best games you can play on the subscription service. Some of these you have most definitely heard of, with one massive game returning to the service, whilst others may be a surprise to you, but are well worth putting in some playtime with. With some of the games leaving the service and others being added every month, it's always a good idea to check out Game Pass regularly to see what's on there. But please, if you like the video, then give it a thumbs up, leave a comment telling me which games are of interest to you most, subscribe to the channel and share the video around. Plus, there's a link down below to the Discord, so join up to talk everything Xbox and gaming. But with that, let's check out some awesome games that Game Pass has. Beginning at number 10 is HOTSHOT Racing, and if you come from the era where groundbreaking and utterly amazing 3D graphics came in the form of actually seeing everything made up of different polygons, then you're going to like this, as what it lacks in any real sort of depth, it makes up for in great arcade-like handling and just being a bunch of fun, especially in multiplayer. You choose one of the several drivers and each comes with their own group of cars, which differ in terms of top speed, acceleration and drift, with the latter being a huge part of the races, along with hitting the nitrous at the best possible times to take out the race. I tended to favour those cars with better acceleration and drift and sacrificing top speed, as I found it more important to get up to speed much quicker and being able to properly control the car when sliding around the corners instead of hitting the sides of the track. There's a good selection of tracks with some interesting trackside detail as well that reminded me of my time with the likes of Virtual Racing or Daytona all those years ago. As mentioned, I don't think this will have you playing for dozens and dozens of hours, but there's fun to be had here, so check it out. For number 9, it's Need for Speed Heat, and this series goes all the way back to the mid-90s, and the franchise is still going strong over 25 years later, but not all of the entrants are really worth playing, as the series can sometimes have an identity crisis half the time, whilst the other half of the time can be seen as trying to do its best Fast and the Furious impression. And there really isn't anything all too deep here, but straight up, it's a different sort of game, but it doesn't match the open world greatness of the Forza Horizon games. But if you're just after some non-serious racing fun, then this could be for you. It's got the storyline filled with cliches and one which you'll forget about pretty quickly, but the driving model is great for those who just want to jump right into the action and be sliding around the tracks as they accumulate and upgrade cars, racing during the day or night. And Need for Speed Heat is a good looking game, as it only came out in 2019, especially during the night races where the lights are reflecting off of the wet streets, and even though the city feels a bit dead most of the time, with an absolutely minimal amount of traffic moving around, the game will still impress, and it's been Xbox One X enhanced too, which ups the resolution. At number 8, we have an absolute classic in that of Doom 2, and this deserves to be played even just a little bit by anyone who likes first-person shooters, or for those who grew up with this game like myself and wants to revisit such an influential game. Yes, Wolfenstein and the original Doom of course came before Doom 2, but it was this game which took what made the original great and what was introduced in Wolfenstein, then just refined the gameplay and introduced even more weapons, and there was the whole multiplayer component which was quite anemic and simple when looking back, but at the time it was incredible and I dumped dozens and dozens of hours into it and the campaign. This was before we controlled shooters with keyboard and mouse and really being able to look up and down, but Doom 2 would usher in an absolute wave of first-person shooters over the years following, and the rest is history, as they say. From ultra-violent shooters and those that mixed in some fantasy and magic, Doom 2 was one of those games that changed gaming and became a phenomenon amongst PC gamers. Go back and give this a look, whether playing for the first time or if you want some nostalgia. Next at number 7 is the pixel art surprise of NARITA Boy, and I don't think this will be a game for everyone due to its retro art style, but for those who do like this visual design and are a fan of 2D side-scrollers and platformers, then you'll definitely want to check this out with its blend of platforming and action, but it also comes with a really interesting world, both in terms of its graphics, with its 80s look and feel, but also the well done story layered on top of everything, where the premise sees you get dragged into a digital world and where you'll fight through the enemies with the serviceable combat, but also be able to play through some memories and flashbacks as well, which flesh out the narrative. But the main star for me here, and from someone who isn't a huge fan of these styles of games, I found the artistic design of the levels and backgrounds mixed with the soundtrack really worked well together and gives you that authentic 80s feel. There are some simple puzzles here and some backtracking as well, but it's one to check out even if only to see the visual design, and it's a worthy addition to Microsoft's subscription service. And at number 6 we have Zombie Army 4, and this one gets ranked around the halfway point, but only if you go into this knowing you'll be playing in the multiplayer most of the time. The footage you see here is when I was playing it solo, but for those going in alone, I don't think you'll stick with it for all too long, as whilst the gameplay and the gameplay loop can be quite fun, it isn't enough to keep my interest even remotely long term, and that's where playing it with others is a definite must, and the fun factor goes way up. Anytime there is a good co-op game out there, it's great to check it out, and when the hordes of zombies are descending upon you, and you and your teammates' death is almost imminent, only to take down the enemies and survive another day, that's where these sorts of games are at their best. This should for sure be played by those fans of the likes of Left 4 Dead or World War Z, as this will see you go through the levels, acquiring new weapons and upgrades and attachments for them as you mow down a ton of enemies. There is enough of a story here to glue all of the action together, but it really comes down to liking this gameplay loop of killing everything in sight, replenishing ammo, and getting to the objective. Not a huge amount of depth, but when playing with friends, that's what will make you want to keep playing. At number 5 we have Skate 3, the series which took a swipe at the long-running Tony Hawk games at the end of the 2000s, and I'm only very new to this series, never having played the first two, but that's an example as to why Game Pass is so brilliant, as this isn't the type of game I'd be tripping over myself to play, although maybe I'd give it more of a chance after the superb Tony Hawk remake, but whereas that series has stumbled multiple times over the years, and sees players hitting button combinations to pull off even more insane moves and combos, and going for even higher scores, the Skate series takes a much more realistic take on skateboarding, which sees players flick the right analog stick in different directions in order to pull off different flip tricks, as well as grinding on rails and the like. So mastering what is made so simple in the Tony Hawk games is a big part of the charm as you skate your way around these open world environments. In terms of the visuals and animations, it is dated, but it still holds up, and I recommend checking this one out even if you have the smallest interest in it. With Skate 4 in development, it's great to see these more extreme sports games live on the newer hardware. Up at number 4 we return to the Xbox 360 days, and it's Battlefield 3, and for anyone that follows the channel, then you would know that I always seem to enjoy the campaigns of the Battlefield and Call of Duty series, with only a couple of exceptions, but when it comes to big dumb action, over the top set pieces, and usually some throwaway story along with some characters that are trying to be fleshed out, but usually just falling short, regardless of that, these games are usually fun, and that comes down to the great gunplay, the feel of shooting the weapons, along with the diverse locations all over the world that you're usually traveling to. Now when it comes to Battlefield, especially for myself, and I'm just talking about the campaigns here, I prefer those games on the Xbox 360, such as Battlefield 3 or Bad Company for example, but also Battlefield 4 once we moved on to the Xbox One. And the series has continued of course, and even though I've mentioned Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5 just recently in some videos, as they look and perform superbly, I don't enjoy the campaigns as much as these older titles. The game still looks very good, but of course the resolution and texture quality is lower than today, plus the aliasing. But if you want explosions and really tight gunplay, and something you'll knock over within half a dozen hours, then check this out. It can be had really cheap at times too. For number 3 we have another Xbox 360 classic, and this time it's from, well maybe was from, the fantastic RPG studio of BioWare when they were still in their heyday, and Dragon Age is one of those franchises that is beloved by many fans, even if its sequel is often criticised by many, with people often being split as to what they think of it. Now Origins does look quite dated in certain aspects, and that's understandable considering this large, in-depth RPG did come out in 2009, but it sees players create their own custom character where you can specialise as a warrior or mage for example, and then choose a background such as an elf or human, and then get sucked into the main story, quests, and getting to know the cast of characters here, including your companions, which will help you out during combat and which you can give commands to. You can easily invest dozens upon dozens of hours playing through all of the content and immersing yourself within this game world. And perhaps now is a good time to visit the series, as it's been confirmed that Dragon Age 4 is in development. There's a lot to enjoy here before you move on to Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition, and that's a lot easier on the eyes as well, that one. It may not match the Mass Effect trilogy for myself in terms of greatness and how memorable it is, but it's definitely great to have on Game Pass. Coming in at number 2 is Outriders, the game which I don't believe would have hardly any hype surrounding it, let alone being one of the best selling games on Xbox recently, or have the huge number of players playing it if it wasn't for Game Pass putting it front and center. Whereas many may not have forked out full price to play this looter shooter, with the barrier to entry being so low, a huge amount of people have decided to play this, with many being surprised by how much content there is here and how fun it is to play, especially with friends once again. Being an Xbox Series X and S enhanced game and running at 60 frames a second, these are just extra reasons to check this one out. And even if you just want to run through the story and skip anything to do with the endgame, it's still going to give you a lot of playtime, and that's without playing as the other classes. But it is best experienced with others. The game still has some bugs and connection problems, and these definitely need to be fixed ASAP. But there's a lot to like with Outriders, even if you only dip your toes in very casually. But it's also really the first third-party game of note to hit the service of Game Pass on launch day, and this won't be the last time either. Lots of fun to be had as you kill everything in sight and level up your character. And at number 1 we have the juggernaut that is Grand Theft Auto 5, and I'm pretty sure this has been on Game Pass previously, and now it's back again. And even for a game that's been around for many years, it's still worth having this on the service, perhaps for the 3 people in the world who haven't played it yet or don't own it already. This huge open world complete with cities, open country areas, small towns, and being able to traverse everything on foot, by car, boat, helicopter, and all the rest. Everything still holds up today, and GTA 5 still proves that it has one of the best, most lifelike and populated open worlds in gaming, and that's no small task when it first released on the Xbox 360 and PS3. The Xbox One and PS4 versions took an already classic game and just made it look and perform better. Now gamers just need to wait for that 60 frames a second version. There isn't a whole lot to say about the game, as everybody probably already knows everything there is to know in this long running and controversial series, and how GTA 5 expands on what has come before. If you haven't played it in years, then maybe fire it back up and see why the game is still in the top 10 or 20 games sold each month. Plus, check out the online component as well. So Game Pass keeps on giving, and don't be surprised if more third-party games show up on the service day and date in the near future. But which games from Game Pass are you currently playing, and which games have surprised you that they are actually on the service to begin with? Please let me know down below, hit the thumbs up, subscribe and share the video, as it really helps the content and channel get pushed out to more people. Click the link in the description to join the Discord to talk everything Xbox and gaming, and I'll see you on the next video.